Hi students, Miss Ruder here, and today we're going to talk about the weather. If you open your packets, you'll find a page where you can graph the weather every day. So if you have your packet, be ready to graph the weather, and if you don't, that's okay. It's so easy to make a graph. I'll show you how right now. Each morning when you wake up, I want you to look out the window and ask yourself, what is the weather today? Then I want you to mark it on your graph. You want to see the weather? Yeah, I thought you did. Is it raining? Is it windy outside? Is it snowy? Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Today is pretty cloudy, but sometimes it's sunny too. I might even wear sunglasses. It's also pretty warm. It's a nice day. However, sometimes it's sunny and it's cool, like in the fall. This is because when we talk about weather, we're talking about light, temperature, and precipitation. Let's talk a little bit more about precipitation. Precipitation is the act of water falling from the sky in the form of rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Most of the time, the precipitation we have in Virginia is rain, but sometimes we get snow too. You probably won't be filling that out on your graph anytime soon. That's because it usually only snows in the winter when it's very cold. I bet if you're filling out your graph now at home, you won't have any spaces marked for snow. At least not if you're filling it out in spring. Spring is a season. The seasons can change the type of weather you're going to see. Like in the winter, it snows, and in the spring, it rains a lot. However, we can have all different types of weather no matter what the season, and that's because in Virginia, the climate is mild. When I say that the climate is mild, I mean that it's never going to be quite as cold as the places north of us, and it's never going to be quite as warm as the places south from us. It usually is somewhere in the middle, and that's why we can see all different types of weather even when it's spring. You might notice that too if you've been filling out your graph at home. All right, students, this is your job. I want you to look out the window each morning when you wake up and ask yourself, what is the weather like today? Then I want you to get out your graph and mark the weather. Is it sunny? Is it rainy? Is it cloudy? Is it windy? Is it snowy? Probably not. Then after a couple days or a couple weeks, we can ask ourselves questions that we can answer with our graph. We can ask, was it rainy more than it was sunny? How many days was it windy? And then we can answer questions about what the weather in Virginia is like during spring. I hope you guys are staying safe. Your teachers miss you so much, and I look forward to seeing your graphs. Have a good day. Hello students, today we're going to practice our letter sounds, And we are going to focus today, when we're making our word families, on the letter I. I says it. Let's try that again. I want you to do it with me. I says it. Sometimes, especially if we grew up speaking a different language, I and E can sound very similar. So let's practice those right now. I says it. E says eh. It's a little bit different. E says eh. I says it. And since we're going to be doing word families with the letter I, I'm just going to have us focus on this letter I. The short I says it. Let's keep going. T says t. N says n. L says l. W says w. F says f. S says s. P says p. Now, what we're actually going to do is work on some blends and some digraphs. Remember, when we're talking about blends, two letters are coming together, but they still make the same sounds. They're just smushed together. When we're talking about digraphs, two letters come together to make a completely different sound. So I am going to have us work on some blends and digraphs, and then once we work on those, we'll have a whole bunch of words that we know how to spell, and we'll practice reading those together. S says S. P says P. Let's put those together. S, P says sp. G says G. R says R. Let's put those together. G, R says grr. C says K. H says H. But together they say something very different. They say ch, like chen. S says S. H says H. But together they say something very different. They say sh, like shh. Now we're going to work to put together all the things that we just practiced. I says I. Now this is a word all on its own. IT says it. It. Sit. L. It. Lit. It. Hit. Now for that blend. Sp. It. Spit. It. I says I. Ip. Ip. L. Ip. Lip. Ip. Hip. Now for a blend. Grr. Ip. Grip. Now for a digraph. Ch. Ip. Chip. Sh. Ip. Ship. That's a word all on its own. Fin. Win. Spin. Grin. Chin. Shin. In. Great job practicing so many words with the short I sound. See you next time. Hi students. Today we are going to talk about one of the 3 R's of using natural resources responsibly. The 3 R's are reduce, reuse, and recycle. Today we are going to talk about recycling. Repeat after me. Recycling. Recycling. Sometimes the things that we buy, use, and eat leaves us with trash that we don't need to keep around anymore. After I use all my soap, I'm left with this plastic bottle. After I feed my cat, I'm left with this can. And after my family eats all the eggs, I'm left with this empty egg carton. When we throw our garbage away in the trash, it usually ends up in a landfill. A landfill is a place on Earth where we put all our trash. The problem with landfills is that all that trash can create gases like methane that pollute the air and trap heat, as well as toxins that seep into the ground and pollute the water. They also take up a lot of space. We just don't have enough space on Earth to keep making landfill after landfill. That's why if an item is recyclable, we should put it in the recycling. If an item is recycled properly, instead of ending up in a stinky landfill, it will go to a recycling facility where the materials will be used to create something new. You may have seen things with a label that says made from recyclable materials. Some companies can make reusable bags, water bottles, shoes, yoga mats, and new paper, all out of things that we recycle. But how do you know if an item is recyclable? One way is to look at the bottom of it and look for the recycling symbol. The recycling symbol usually looks something like this. It's a triangle made up of arrows going around and around to show that the materials will be used again and again. You can find it located on many recyclable items. This item has the recycling symbol here, as well as on the bottom. I can also find the recycling symbol on this egg carton. Another way to find out if something is recyclable is to check with your city's website. Different cities may have different rules when it comes to recycling. Our city has this flyer to let people know what they can recycle. The city website even has a game you can play after you've learned which items are recyclable. In Alexandria, you can recycle plastic jugs and bottles, empty aerosol cans, aluminum cans and tin cans, paperboard boxes like the kind cereal comes in, foil food trays, all different kinds of paper, milk cartons, juice cartons, and cardboard. It's important to know what your city recycles. That way, if you have something like a cardboard box and you can't find the recycling symbol, you know that it can still be recycled so that it won't end up taking space in a landfill. If something is recyclable, don't throw it in a regular trash can. Find a recycling bin with the recycling symbol on it. If you have received your May packet, you should see this recycling activity as one of your science options. It says, think about what is around your house that can be recycled. Then, find this page where you can write or draw about what you can recycle. If you have not received your May packet for any reason, you can also easily do this with blank paper, writing paper, or a writing journal. Later, I'll make another video about the other two R's in using natural resources responsibly: reduce and reuse. But today, we focused on recycling, and I hope you learned something about how to recycle. Thanks for learning with me today. Hello, students. Today, for social studies, we are going to continue to talk about the economy. You might remember that last time we talked about the economy, we talked about the difference between goods and services. We also said that when we talk about the economy, we're really asking ourselves two different questions. How do people make money? And how do people use money? When we talked about goods and services, we were talking about how people use money. Goods and services are things that people spend money on. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about that first question. How do people make money? How do people earn money? But we're also going to talk about how people spend money as well. And that is because today we are talking about producers and consumers. Let's practice saying those words, and let's start with producers. Producers. Everyone say producer. A producer is someone who makes, grows, creates, or offers goods and services. This farmer is a producer. He's working and he produces food. This woman is a producer. She is weaving, and what she's creating is this beautiful fabric. This writer is a producer. He's working, and what he produces is books. This teacher is a producer. She's teaching, and what she's producing are these lessons for her students, and hopefully a future filled with educated people making informed decisions. Producers have a role in the economy. Now let's talk about that other word and that other role in our economy. Consumers. Repeat after me. Consumers. A consumer is someone who buys goods or services. Consume means to eat or use something, like you might consume that cheeseburger. This family is shopping for food. They are consumers. They're going to buy the food and consume it later. This woman is shopping for a dress. She's a consumer because she's going to use that dress. When you buy toys, you're a consumer. Even when we shop online, we're consumers. Most adults are both producers and consumers. Sometimes we're at work making money, and other times we're at the store spending money. That's basically how our economy works. When I'm at school with you guys or here at home making lessons, I'm producing lessons, and that's my work. That's how I make money. But then when I need groceries for Callie and I to eat dinner, I'm buying food, and then I'm a consumer. I am both a producer and a consumer. Let's look at Callie's lemonade stand to see if we can learn more about producers and consumers. Here is Callie. She made a lemonade stand. She made this lemonade, and now she's going to sell it. That means Callie is a producer. When someone makes something for money, they are a producer. When I buy lemonade from Callie's lemonade stand, I am a consumer. I am buying the lemonade, and then I'm consuming it. Now let's look at some images and see if we can identify the producer and the consumer. Here's a familiar scene. In this picture, we already know I'm the consumer because I'm buying the lemonade and I'm going to consume it. I'm giving money to Callie, who is the producer. Let's look at some more examples. This man is giving a haircut. He's a producer. What he's producing is a cool hairstyle. The man getting the haircut is a consumer. He paid money to have someone else style his hair. Now let's take a moment to look at this picture of an ice cream truck. Can you tell who is the producer and who is the consumer? If you guessed that these girls buying ice cream are the consumer, you're correct. They're going to buy that ice cream and consume it. If you guessed that the ice cream man was the producer, you're correct. He's giving that ice cream to the children and providing the service of driving the ice cream truck around. He is the producer. Thank you so much for spending time with me today learning about the economy. See you next time. Hello, boys and girls. I'm here with Sylvie, who is also in first grade, and we're going to talk about how to use the versatiles. What you will need is the holder for the versatiles, the tiles,
and the books.
And there are two different books, right? What are the two different books, Sylvie?
Reading, math.
Right. Please take a moment to make sure that you have the following materials in front of you and ready to use. The Versatiles Literacy Workbook, the actual Versatiles themselves, which have numbers on one side and colored patterns in red, blue, and yellow on the other side, as well as the holder for placing your versatiles in once you have the answer. Make sure you have those before you get started.
Literacy means reading. In this packet, I already picked one. I'm doing this one.
Yeah, great.
We're doing this one, not this one. Great.
Okay, Sylvie picked an activity on page 27 in the Versatiles Literacy book, and it's called All Together Now. Find the name for each group. Please turn to page 27 and find the page that says All Together Now. And the tip over here says, think, how are the words in each group alike? Okay, and it says leg, arm, neck. Leg, arm, and neck are all parts of your body. We're going to start with question 1. Make sure you have the number 1 versatile out and ready so that you can answer question 1. And it says bear, cow, horse. How are all of those things alike? Take a moment to think at home. How is a bear, a cow, and a horse alike?
They're alike. Let's see. They're animals.
Find possible answers at the bottom of the page. When you find the answer that best answers the question for number 1, put the number 1 tile in that space. Okay.
See? Big animals.
They're big animals. That's great. So she's putting number 1 over the answer big animals because that's how they're all alike. Now we're ready to move on to question 2. Make sure you have the tile that says 2 on it ready to go so you can answer the question. Number 2 says, Hat, cap, and socks.
People, I think. No,
Is
not
a
things
hat
to
a
eat.
person?
Nope.
Look at question 2. How is a hat, a cap, and socks the same? Let's look at some of our answers. Are those things feelings? Are they things to eat? I don't eat hats. Are they things to wear? Let's see.
Let's see.
Is it things to wear?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to put number 2 there because the answer to number 2 is that they're things to wear. Number 3.
Yes, 3.
Number 3 says red, yellow, and blue. How are those 3 things similar? Are red, yellow, and blue small animals? Are they places to live? Or is red, yellow, and blue an example of colors? Red, yellow,
Color.
blue. Oop, colors. Can you find that in the answers?
Let's see.
Colors. And number 4, 5, 3. Numbers.
Number words.
Okay, number 5. Can
5.
you find the versatile for number 5?
5. Whoa.
Rice, cheese,
Food.
apple. Food. Do you find an answer for food? Things to eat. Ooh, we should show them. That says things to eat. We thought it was food, but does things to eat work?
Yep, it is.
All right.
It is things to eat. Food is things to eat.
Sometimes the answer that's provided might be a little bit different than the answer you thought of in your head. When that happens, find the best answer. Maybe if you can't find the word food, but you can find things to eat, then the answer is things to eat.
This is
6.
9. We're 6. Here, 6.
Yeah, you're right. 6. Frog, kitten, pup.
Animal.
We used animals for
Small animals.
Small animals. Good job. Now 7. Run, jump, hop. What are those things?
Place to move. Ways to move.
Ways to move. Very good. Now 8. Clouds, birds, stars.
Things in the sky.
Things in the sky. 9. Sad, scared, bored. What are those?
Feelings.
Feelings. Good. Number 10. Dad, boy, mom.
People.
Good. Now, oh, we got to scoot down a little bit. 11. House, tent.
Places to live.
Good.
And last one, things to read.
We didn't even read it yet. 12. Story, poem, tale. All right, things to read.
Let's see. Final part.
Here's the final part. We're going to close it. Now what we need is for our answers to match this picture right here at the bottom. Does it match that picture, Sylvie? Show us our answers. Show us how we take it like this, and then we flip it over, right?
Nope.
I think that matches. Look at it, Sylvie. Do you see the picture down at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, we got it.
We got it. So our picture is with the red and the yellow and the blue. Does that match that right there?
The red does, the yellow does, and the blue.
Blue does. So that's how we can check our answers. We put the answers in here just like that to go with the questions. And then we close it up and flip it over and check to see if it matches.
And it does match.
It does match. Now let me ask you a question. What if you flip this over and the picture doesn't match the picture that's at the bottom of the page? What should you do if it doesn't match?
Redo it or find the mistakes and redo the mistakes.
Yeah, so if your picture doesn't look the same, maybe you put a wrong answer, and if you redo it, you'll find the mistake. Yep, this is just a way of checking your answers to see if you did it right. So if you're confused, it's okay. It takes a couple times, but after you do it a couple times, you
it's pretty easy to figure out.
And I'll tell you what cheating means on this. By looking at the picture and just doing it.
Yeah, we don't want to do that because then we're not learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to practice. All right, thank you for your help, Sylvie.
You're welcome.